Navigator, in about 3 weeks' time, I'm scheduled to appear as the main character in an epic cinematic, which is gonna be shot in an epic landscape just like this. And I'm not exactly looking very epic right now, so we need to fix that. We're gonna make a full, Viking, Norse-inspired costume that I've designed myself. And this, my friends, is going to be quite the undertaking. Because compared to our previous costumes, which have all been quite unrealistic, I want this costume to feel real, like it could have existed, despite being fantasy. And that means I only want to use real materials, wool, leather, linen, metals, sort of historical materials. But I think the most important thing here, and also the biggest challenge, is going to be just making everything look worn and lived in. And that is something we haven't really done before. And all of this has to be ready in only 3 weeks, because that's when we're meeting with Sebastian Jern, an amazing creator who specializes in creating these incredible cinematics using miniatures and compositing. And well, this has been in the works for almost a year now, so no matter what, we have to be ready for when we go to shoot together on a mountaintop here in Norway with me as the main character. Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I have no idea what to expect, neither from the project or the shoot itself. All I know is I'm kind of scared, so I'm just gonna let my delusion and my excitement guide me and fuel me, and we will see where that takes us. Oh yes, coffee ready, I am ready, and also I have actually made a bit of a head start on this project, because I have already made a plan. Now, as you can see, we have to make a linen shirt, a gambeson, bracers, cloak, shield, wig, linen pants, linen underskirt, gambeson middle skirt, wool overskirt, leather armor skirt, thin leather belt, and a pair of boots. Yeah, I know, such a short list. But if there's one thing I've been looking forward to for literally months, it is to make the cloak. All right. Now, where do we begin? Well, Martina, a good place to start would be with a pattern. Wow! Mind-boggling. And lucky for me, cloaks are usually just made up of a half circle. Now, like I mentioned in the beginning, I created the design for this character myself. I spent a lot of time a few months ago working on it, trying to find that balance between being too much of a main character while still being unique and also having a, reasonably functional outfit. Because honestly, that's often what puts me off about certain designs in the fantasy space. How on earth would any person wear all these little flappy things and incredibly uncomfortable armor sets if the goal is to run around fighting evil? How are you supposed to do that wearing something like this? Anyway. Alright, we got all the fabric cut out, both for the outer fabric and the lining. So now we just gotta pin and stitch. Okay, I need to just nerd out for a second, because this is what I think makes this costume so much cooler than what we've done before. And that is historical inspiration. Now hold on, it's a lot cooler than it sounds, okay? See, the fabric I've used for this cloak is 100% wool with a diamond weave pattern. And this is actually a type of fabric weave that existed in the Viking era. I think it's really cool to think that this weave pattern was actually made and worn 1,000 years ago. And that goes for all the fabrics we're gonna use for this costume. The next step now is to add a decorative woven band around all the edges of these pieces. These bands are not exactly historically accurate, but they are inspired by tablet woven bands that's been a tradition in Scandinavia for the past 1,000 years, and in more modern times, woven bands used in traditional folk costumes called bunad. Okay, anyway, history lesson over, time to do a test fit. That looks pretty fucking epic! Dude, it's got the perfect shape. And if I see one little Red Riding Hood comment, I'm coming to your house. Alright, main part of the cloak is done. Now we just need some pauldrons and a little bit of fur. Huh? I think that looks pretty good. It kind of looks like the bat signal. Now, these final parts were luckily quite easy to make. I used some 3mm thick vegetable tanned leather, cut it to size, then rounded off the edges with this edge beveler. And man, this is such an underrated step in leatherworking, because look how satisfying that is! Then we just gotta bring out our questionable tool and burnish those edges using water and pure force, followed by staining which again, so satisfying. I freaking love leatherworking because it's one of the few crafts where I actually enjoy all the steps of the process. Anyway, while the leather is drying, let's bring out the fur. I found this fur coat secondhand, and I don't think it was very popular because it's kind of falling apart on the inside and, well, it's a bit eccentric in it. I got to work, ripped off the arm. I just had to make some minor adjustments to it and stitch up the open sides. And now, time for a little cloak test fit. Pauldrons and the fur. And then belt across over there around to attach everything. And Hans is also gonna make some metal pieces for the pauldrons here. I love the shape. The shape is so good. I'm really happy with like how the pauldrons are sort of sticking out a little bit like wings almost, but not too much. Best cloak we have ever done. Need to make it look old and worn, but that is for later. Well, that means that piece number 1 is complete. Check that off the list. And also, while I was working on the cloak, I had some help from Isabel to make the undergarments. So just one moment. Linen shirt, linen pants. So freaking comfy and movable. And she also made our first layer on top. It's gonna sit like that. You see on the drawing, it's like the first layer right above the pants there. We're getting somewhere. Undergarments, check. Cross that off the list. 4 items. Boom, in the box. So let's move on to the gambeson middle skirt and the wool overskirt. And I don't know, it feels so weird to call it a skirt, but like what else do you call it? Let me know. Anyway, I have prepared some kind of wonky patterns for this. And please use your imagination to replace the polka dot with something a little cooler, but just to show you the shape, okay? Here we go, gambeson middle skirt. You see it? And then the more complicated wool overskirt. About there. Do you see the vision without the polka dots? Okay, if you don't see it, I see it, okay? And just trust me, it's gonna be cool. So let's start from the bottom with the gambeson. Way back when, these were made by essentially layering a bunch of dense fabric like wool, linen, in many layers, and also just taking whatever scraps you had, like freaking cloth, horsehair, whatever you could take to stuff in there, it helps. Then you had to sew it in some sort of geometric pattern to keep things from shifting around, and hopefully whatever you ended up with would be enough to keep your neighbor from stabbing you to death. So that is basically what we're gonna do. Hopefully except the last part. And so I have prepared just a bunch of different layers of whatever scrap fabrics I had lying around. And we're gonna put all of those inside our main fabric, which is this nice dense wool. Let's stitcheroo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Nice little stack of 8 total layers. Well, there we go. Gambeson skirt complete. Now do a little test fit. I love how it sits. And like just the fact that there are so many layers here makes it stand out on its own. Like we don't even have to fake it because it just is the way it's supposed to be. I feel like you can visually see the weight of this thing. It's freaking coming together, baby! So Gavison skirt, check that off the list. Another one! Now, as you know, we are soon about to travel to our shoot location with Sebastian Jern, and the whole, prepping and packing and traveling part can be pretty stressful in itself. But on top of that, having to figure out the whole internet access situation can be a nightmare when traveling. Unless you use Saily. Personally, I've used Saily every time I've traveled overseas for the past year or so. And if you don't know, Saily is an eSIM that offers mobile data plans in over 200 destinations, including Norway, of course. So if you are to travel here to get a glimpse of them beautiful fjords, Saily makes sure you can still brag to all your friends and family by sending them a million selfies from the mountaintops. It's super easy to use. You just go to the App Store, download Saily, choose the right data plan for your needs, and use our code NERDFORGE15 to get an extra 15% off. And boom! You got internet connection right away because it automatically activates after you land at your destination. You only need to install Saily's eSIM once instead of getting a new one every time you visit a new country. Like, seriously, it saved me so many headaches already. So if you're traveling anytime soon, make sure to download the Saily app and use our code NERDFORGE15 for an exclusive 15% off. And back to the project. I think since we're on such a good trajectory with this whole lower body thing, let's just continue there. So next up would be the wool overskirt. That's gonna have a bunch of details. And then there's gonna be like a small leather skirt on top of that to, really get those layers in. Seriously, this whole costume, it's all layers. Just layers upon layers upon layers. And I think that is gonna look cool. Alrighty then, let's try to wrap up the lower body. Whew.
Okay, so if we look at the design, we actually need some metal parts, and for that we're gonna use steel. This is 1mm mild steel, and we want to etch the design that Martina's made into the steel. So we're not gonna just paint it, it's gonna have an actual texture on it. The question is, how do you etch steel? Well, we could use an electrolysis bath to remove some of that metal or steel. I've already cheated a bit. I've covered this piece that we're gonna use in paint, and that will protect the parts of the metal we don't want to etch. And then I have removed some of the paint on the front here where our pattern is gonna be etched into. So all we have to do now, in theory, is to make an electrolysis bath, which I'm gonna use this tub for. Just fill it in with water and add some salt. We should be able to dissolve the... Can you even hear me now? And in theory, we should be able to dissolve some of that metal and get a texture on it. But we'll see. I have to wait for the water. This is a large tub. Okay, got our water here. Now we're gonna add a bunch of salt. Oh, that was a lot. Don't think that matters. Now in theory, all we need to do is to connect our power supply, and we need to connect the positive to our actual piece. Very well, my friend. That means the metal will move towards the negative side and sort of attach itself to whatever is connected to the negative, which will be a different piece of steel that we just add to the top here. And then we apply a voltage. I'm gonna put it at 10 volts and we leave it for a while. And we wait. It seems to do something. It bubbles. Good. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so it's been like an hour or so. Hopefully that's enough, that it's like deep enough. We don't want to leave it too long either, because it can remove the paint and then we just get a mess. On the topic of mess, this is disgusting. This is just a iron salt slurry at this point, but we have to get in there to get our piece out. Remove the power so there's no more electricity here. I don't want to get electrocuted. Okay, well, I know you can't feel it, but I can feel like it's very tactile. I can feel the pattern. So far, so good. Now we're gonna remove the paint layer. So for that, I'm just gonna use some acetone and also PPE. Put my wet gloves in my face. That's safe. It's kind of interesting. You can see like where the metal has etched is sort of like not shiny anymore, whereas where the paint has been to protect it, it's still got that shine. So it seems to have done something at least. So the idea now is that we're gonna cover like the whole thing in something that darkens the metal. And for that, we're gonna use gun blue, which is fairly toxic. And hopefully the whole thing will turn dark. Ooh. Oh, instantly, whoa. It's so quick. Like this is not a paint, it reacts with the surface of the metal and actually oxidizes it or something. Some chemical reaction that I don't know that actually turns this black. It's very cool. So no paint, it's pure chemicals. Dry away the remnants, the excess, and then I'm just gonna quickly wash it all away in the sink. It's all completely black. Very cool. Now I'm just gonna use Scotch-Brite and try to remove the sort of the highlights and see if we can get some depth to this etching. Wow, it's slowly revealing, like you can see the difference. Pretty cool.
Oh, that is
now,
cool.
I am wondering if the Scotch-Brite is a little bit too rough and it kind of gets into the dark parts. So what I'm gonna try to do instead is to take a sanding block and some high grit sandpaper, and this block will sort of force the sandpaper to stay on top. So I'm just gonna try that. That looks a lot better. Oh yes! I'm fairly happy with this.
Hell yeah!
That turns out so much better than the last time we tried a few years back. I will need to re-blacken the part I used the Scotch-Brite on, and then I'm just gonna re-sand the whole surface. Okay, I think that looks pretty darn good. I'm just gonna quickly dry this up and then get some WD-40 on there, because this is gonna rust really quickly. Hey! One is complete.
Woo!
All we have to do now is like cut away the edges, bend it a bit, and then we can attach it to the leather. But that's the step. I just have to repeat it like, I guess 5-6 more times. I'm very happy with the result though.
Hell yeah, Humpy.
Hell yeah.
Oh, I was gonna give you a high five, but yeah. So, one thing that is obviously missing from this costume is a weapon. But seeing as I neither have the skills nor the time to actually forge something from the ground up, I'm gonna call a friend of mine and see if they might have the time to forge something. Hopefully they do. If not, I'm gonna be weaponless maiden. That won't do. Hello!
Time to see.
Yeah, how are you?
How you getting on?
Yeah, I'm good,
Nice.
and that is kind of the reason why I'm calling. We are working on a costume right now, but I realized a little too late that we are missing a weapon for this costume.
You're gonna find a blacksmith.
Yeah, I was thinking, I've been looking all over, you know, going through all the blacksmiths I know at this point.
So well, I hope you find one. It was nice talking to you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, nice to see you. Okay, bye. No, listen, Nate, I need you. Okay, okay, don't leave me hanging like this. Okay, at least hear me out. Okay, like I know this is a stretch. If you have the time, the next 2 weeks to make a Viking-inspired sword from scratch, that would be amazing. Because yeah.
Yeah, no bother. So easy. 2 weeks, that's so much time. Do you want a hand delivered as well?
I mean, if you could, yes, that would be amazing. You do know I'm serious, right? Like, I'm not actually kidding.
I thought this was a joke.
No.
Wait, do we actually have to make you a sword?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay, I'll make you one.
Yes!
I haven't got a passport. It'll be fine. I'll be fine. 2 weeks is plenty of time to get a passport.
Yeah. Should be enough.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay, perfect. Amazing. Looking forward to it. Godspeed. Thank you.
See ya.
Okay, bye. These guys, I swear, if they can pull this off, I mean, if anyone can, they will. I'm still not actually sure if they understood I was serious or not. Because, like, I have to double check. Okay, I guess I'll send them some info about the design and try to make them understand that I'm actually serious. Keep you posted.
Okay, Martina, I hear you need a shield. This is how we get it.
Okay, I'm listening.
We're gonna need linen, wood, nails, rawhide, not to mention a shield boss.
Okay, wait, say we get all that, then what? We just like jigsaw a shield and smack it together with a brad gun?
Well, not exactly. We make a router jig, and that should give us a perfect circle.
Sure, yeah, sounds good.
What comes next though? It's quite easy. We take the linen, and then we use PVA glue to glue it on top of our shield.
Why do we need to do that?
It will make it a lot sturdier, and it is period accurate. This is where you come in though, because we're gonna need a paint job, and you have a magical talent of making things not look like garbage. What if you make the design, and then we let Sir William III cut out the design in vinyl. Then we take the vinyl, place the vinyl on top of the shield, and then we paint. Much less prone for error, which is good for me.
Sounds good.
Every shield needs to be protected from sword blades and axes, and for that we're gonna use rawhide. This is the same stuff Nori likes to chew on. It's super hard, but once you soak it in water, it becomes soft, like jello. If we take that, attach it all around the circle of the shield, drill holes, and then sew it in place with some linen thread, it's gonna wrap itself tightly around the shield when it dries, like an ancient zip tie made of skin.
That is disgusting.
And now comes the last remaining steps. We're gonna need a handle, and we're gonna attach that using nails, rivet them in place with a hammer. We do that for the handle, we also do that for the shield boss, and once that's complete, the shield is done.
Okay, well, I mean, sounds like a solid plan, but are you sure we can do all that?
The thing is, it's already done. Isabel, the shield.
Oh my god.
Now the only thing is, it needs a little bit of weathering.
Are you saying...
Yes, yes I am.
Please. No! Alright, boys. Here is where we're at. These are all the pieces that we have completed so far. The linen shirt, the cloak, the shield, and all the pieces for the lower body, except for the boots, which we're gonna do next. And what better way to start making ancient, fantasy-inspired leather boots than with ballerina shoes from Amazon. Look, I only got them because they're like completely flat, which is perfect for what we need. As always, stealing from the cosplay community, I started this journey by wrapping my shins in cling film and tape, drawing on a rough design with a marker, and then cutting off the wrapping. I could then take this mold of my shin and chop it into shoe-shaped fabric bits, because, you know, I figured it would be a good idea to make a fabric test first before wasting actual leather on this, which turned out to be a good idea since it took like, what, 8 tries before it actually, you know, started to feel comfortable and look not too wonky. With the pattern fitting nicely, I got to work on this 1mm thick vegetable tanned goat leather, chopping all my pieces and doing about 1 million more test fits. Now with the help of paper clips, you've been a great help in this project. And then of course follows a whole lot of saddle stitching, which is just, you have one needle here, another needle there, a thread in the middle, and then just sew like an infinity loop. Very strong. Very nice. I also tried to get a bit more fancy with my stitching in some places, making these little X patterns, like around the loops here, for instance. Look at that. Wow. Imagine how boring that would look with just plain stitches. Yeah, I know I'm probably the only one who cares about this, but like, it looks a lot better, okay? Adds to the coolness. One shoe, complete. And seeing as I have 2 feet, we just gotta rinse and repeat. And boom, 2 shoes. Very nice. And now it's time to attach the leather to the ballerina shoe. And this is where it gets a little bit wonky, but just bear with me, okay? First, we apply the contact glue. Then, we struggle a little bit to get it positioned correctly, but hey, there we go. Now, it might have held up fine with just contact glue, like probably, but for good measure, I decided to just basically stitch right through the rubber sole to like really secure the leather in place. A little wonk. Yes, but if it works, it works. At least it's not gonna fall off like walking up the mountain, you know? And finally, to the most fun part, staining. And I decided to do it in a way I'd actually never tried before, by basically dunking the entire boot in a container of dye. Trying to get the dye to soak into all the little nooks and crannies. Boy, was this a mess, but I loved it! It was so much more fun than applying it with a cloth, like hello? I'm doing this again. I am glad I did a little bit of prep though, because look at how this thing just drips. So I had to dab off all the excess, hung it on a tripod to dry, and let it dry overnight. And I also added a little bit of wax on top just to make the leather stay soft and not crack. And what do you know? We got leather boots, baby! Woo! And man, look at that before and after. What a transformation! I guess we can say that boots are complete. Check that off the list. And that also means entire lower body complete, baby. Yeah! Look at all these pieces. It's so cool to see them laid out like this. Like, it just makes it so much more obvious how close we are to finishing. Like, there's just the gamson top, the bracers with the gloves, and the wig left. What? Well, there's a couple of other minor things as well, like attaching the metal pieces that Hansi has made and assembling the cloak. And I also want to add a few minor details as well to some of the pieces we've already done, but overall, we are so close to finishing. Just a few more pieces to go before we can do what is probably going to be the scariest part of this whole build, the weathering. You know, making all of this look like it's actually been worn and lived in for years and years. Yeah, that is gonna be interesting. But in order to do the weathering, we need to complete the costume first. So, let us get down to business. Guys, I am a Norse warrior! Ah! I am freaking in love with this costume. Like, look at all the layers and how freaking movable I am still. No one can stop me! Except the heat. Jesus Christ. I've been wearing this for 3 minutes. I'm already dying. Ah, I guess that is the downside of actually using things like wool, linen, leather. This is a winter outfit. But anyway, I feel like I came fresh out of the factory or the seamstress. So we need to distress this. We need to do a bunch of weathering and make it look like I have actually been fighting in this. You know, so I can pretend to be a cool warrior. All right, weathering time. Is this weathering? This feels illegal. 2 more hours and we're there, yeah, into the woods. Yeah. Weathering. What? Oh! What? What? Yeah. Weathering. Okay. Turns out rolling around on the ground and frolicking through the forest is not a very effective weathering technique after all. Time to bring out the big guns! The belt sander. I thought I would have a heart attack when I tore the first hole in the fabric with this. Like, I just destroyed all my hard work. What have I done? But I had seen a lot of people use this technique with amazing results, so I just had to breathe and trust the process. Seeing as we only had 1 day to do all the weathering before we had to travel to the shoot location, there really was no time to think. We just had to get this done. The whole weathering process was really chaotic and messy, with everything from spraying coffee onto the fabric, to staining it with leather dye to make it look dirty, to applying acetone and Scotch-Brite to the leather pieces, which, holy snakes! That looks so much better! And all the metal pieces, well, they got a good beating with a file and a hammer. And this all felt so illegal and so wrong, and I had to keep convincing myself to keep going, because, like, we want Game of Thrones vibes, not Wheel of Time vibes. You know what I mean? So suck it up and give that fabric some hate. Despite the emotional damage that this process did to me, I have to say that, boy, was it worth it? It's almost hard to capture on camera how big of a difference the weathering actually made, but it made a huge impact on the overall look of the costume. Like, it went from fashion show to grimy traveler, which is just what we need. Somehow we managed to scramble and weather everything in that 1 day before we had to pack up all our stuff and get on the road to travel 4 hours to the shoot location and meet with Sebastian, who would be driving over 12 hours from Sweden to produce the cinematic, and Nate's Forge, who would come all the way from Scotland with the forged sword to complete the costume. What the?
Hello, fellow travelers! Do you yearn for wares?
Yeah, they were actually forging parts of the sword the day before the shoot in the middle of the mountains.
What you looking at, you little creep?
Yeah, I was both impressed, stressed, and intrigued all at once. But, well, I'm not one to talk. I still hadn't braided the wig and done the final fixes to our costume. So, after meeting up with Sebastian at the campsite, that is exactly what we spent our evening and early morning hours on. At last came the day we had been preparing for almost a year now.
I've never been there. No one has been here, so I think it's better. Otherwise, we're just gonna be like, oh, we need to stop here, and that's gonna take 45 minutes to put on.
The day we would climb the mountain to shoot an epic cinematic with me as the main character. Never underestimate a good stick. First time I've ever done a 3-hour hike in scorching sunlight wearing a wig, which I would not recommend. And how the hell that thing and my makeup didn't fall off before we reached the top, I do not know. When we finally got there, I was incredibly impressed to find out that Nate had, in fact, managed to complete the sword in just 1 week. And it turned out to be the perfectly imperfect sword to complete this costume. Forging an entire sword in 1 week is a tall order in itself, but doing parts of it in the freaking mountains? In a country you don't even live in? Like, honestly, that just perfectly captures the spirit of this whole collaboration. So huge thanks to Nate's Forge. Make sure to check them out here on YouTube to see how they made it and give them some love from us. In the end, we did 2 long days of shooting until midnight, getting back to the cabin at 2 AM, which was a little rough, but hey, it was so worth it. Incredible location, beautiful hike, amazing people. What more can you ask for? And now I cannot wait to see the result of this production. Like, I think it's gonna be so freaking cool. I'm both honored and stoked to have been part of this, you know? So there is obviously still a lot more work to be done before the cinematic and Sebastian's behind the scenes video is done. So in the meantime, make sure you follow Sebastian Jern on Instagram and YouTube so you don't miss out when it comes. I'll leave a link to those down below. This has to be the most fun I've had with the project in a long time. Like, I loved every step of making the costume and then having it be part of something so much bigger and being able to work with not just 1 but 2 other incredible creators and then having the excuse to go out and touch some grass. Like, it doesn't get better than that. So yeah, stay tuned for the cinematic, and as always, thank you so much to our wonderful patrons for continuing to support us. You're amazing, and thank you so much for watching our video. And that is all. It is time. Let's have a look at the final result!